Hello, I'm Leanne Jones and a warm welcome to Your Career. If you find it impossible to ignore that LinkedIn request, Facebook status update or the latest sale that's popped into your inbox, you're certainly not alone. Research by mindfulness trainers, the Potential Project, has found that we're distracted and unfocused nearly half the time that we're at work. They say that we live in an attention economy where your ability to focus is the key to actually improving effectiveness and reducing stress. Gillian Coutts is from the Potential Project and is co-author of the book 1 Second Ahead. And Paterson is the Learning and Development Manager at Herbert Smith Freehills, a company that's implemented a corporate mindfulness program with impressive results. They join me in studio today. A very warm welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Leanne.
Gillian, I might start off with you. I mean, for those that are not quite sure what mindfulness is, might come across as a bit of a fluffy subject. Could you take us through exactly what it means?
For sure. So for mindfulness at work is really a series of tools and techniques for mental effectiveness in the workplace, with the demonstrated sort of benefits of clarity, focus, the capacity to be more creative, have better relationships, cooperation, that sort of thing.
So, Murray, your thoughts? I mean, we live in this world where we seem to have all this information overload. There's lots of stress at work. We always seem to, I guess, have the stress of being on all the time. I guess it makes our ability to focus at work very difficult. How can mindfulness be applied to actually reduce some of that noise?
Well, it's an extraordinary thing to learn. It's a great skill because it allows you to focus completely on the thing that you choose when you choose it. So by, directing your attention at something in particular, you lose the other distractions. They just fade out of your consciousness. So you become completely focused, completely absorbed, you pay attention and you do a better job. So it's kind of a great relief, actually. Your experience of work is just much calmer.
Sure.
And you get out of the office, well, if not earlier, you at least get more done in the day, which is a fantastic outcome.
Really about learning how to focus on those things that you need in particular. Gillian, might get your thoughts. What are the foundations of mindfulness training?
So for the programs that we run, there's really two skills that we're looking to train people in. The first is that capacity to hold their focus on something in particular and hold that for any more than 8 seconds. I think the most recent research from Microsoft was that people could focus for 8 seconds. But the first skill is really around focus. The second, though, is then around that idea of awareness, or the capacity to notice, almost like in a helicopter view, what's going on in the world, so that you can, while you're deeply focused here, if there's something that's more important that you should actually start to switch your attention to.
So I know that you're obviously very focused on how mindfulness is helping employees perform better in the workplace. Can you explain what the Potential Project actually does?
So the work that we do is with organisations around the world, both organisations like Accenture, Nike, Sony, big sort of corporations, as well as smaller organisations as well, that where we run programs that might run for 8 weeks, where we get groups of people together for an hour a week to look at sort of 3 key aspects: mind training, so doing the training that we just spoke about. Also then looking at what are some mental strategies for dealing with this constant pressure, the experience of always being on, information overload, constantly distracted. What are strategies for getting around that? As well as then applications for the workplace. So if you're more focused as well as more aware, what does that look like when you walk into a meeting? What does it look like when you're doing your emails? What does it look like when you're setting your goals and your priorities for the day?
Sure. We might get to that in just a moment with some of your advice, I guess, on dealing with those emails and those priorities. Murray, I know that you've actually implemented this corporate mindfulness program at your company. How has your team actually reacted to that mindfulness training?
Well, it's been extraordinary. The increased improvement in performance around the ability to focus, we've been talking about that, effectiveness, efficiency, the quality of communication, all of these metrics have kind of gone up. The interesting one that's come down is the attempt to multitask. So as you reduce that kind of multitasking effort, that's again a kind of improvement in your efficiency. So, but it's not just that. These are kind of good business results, and that's important in a law firm like ours. But it's also a sense of composure, a sense of calm, a sense of collectedness. A sense of patience. So your relationships with others, the people you work with your clients, they improve too. So it has enormous impact on people around you and at home. Like, it transcends the workplace. So people who are doing this in my workplace report that to me, that their relationship with their spouse or with their children or with their partner, at work, whoever it is, has just improved, and they're kind of wonderful outcomes, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Gillian, is that some of the feedback that you've been getting from, a number of these corporates that take on the project?
Absolutely. So both across within the workplace, the sense of, because they've got greater focus, almost it feels like they've got more time in the day because they've not got that sense of busyness in their mind. They're able to let go of mental clutter, and at the same time better sleep patterns, better capacity to wake up refreshed. So really interesting benefits sort of in the holistic sort of health sense as well.
Sure. All right. Wanted to get some of your tips. So we'll as I mentioned, talking about those emails, because email addiction seems to be something that's quite common for all of us, I suppose. We probably can't go too long without checking our emails. We might even be on holiday or sick. Can you share some tips, I guess, on how to avoid that email addiction?
I think the first thing, even recognising that it can be addictive and that literally within your brain the neurotransmitter dopamine is released whenever you anticipate a reward or to achieve something that's meaningful to you. And interestingly, it's the same neurotransmitter that's involved in any sort of addiction, whether it's an eating addiction or smoking, anything. And so you can be addicted to emails and neurologically addicted. So the idea of just knowing that and starting to notice when is it that you're compelled to be checking your email and when is it actually something you're choosing to do and you've got time to do it and it's useful to you, as opposed to just reacting in the moment. Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is to, as best as possible, kill all notifications. So all of the SMS dinging on your phone or the pop-ups that come up, they say it takes at least 6 seconds for your attention to return. So every time something interrupts you, the time that you lose of focus when you return is real lost productivity time in the workplace.
I suppose it's difficult to avoid not checking it when you do see one of those notifications come through.
So you can't, it's like mental clutter. It's constantly pulling you away. So it's again setting up the conditions so that you're choosing what you're doing as opposed to just reacting to what's going on.
Murray, your thoughts on meetings, because a lot of people view these as being a bit of a waste of time. Your thoughts on having effective meetings?
Yeah, terrific. So, I mean, deciding to have the meeting in the first place, what's the purpose of this meeting? What's the agreement we have about that? Okay, we've decided to go into the meeting, so then when you choose to go into the meeting, attend, pay attention. Don't be doing this, under the table with your BlackBerry or your phone. Don't be thinking about the thing you had just left, or the things you've got to do next. Choose to focus on the person who's speaking, just as we are in this conversation, and we're not kind of distractedly looking at other tools and mechanisms, so we're focused on the conversation. So when you come out of those meetings where you know what you've done, you know what you've achieved, the opposite is when you come out of a meeting and somebody says, right, we're going to go and do this, aren't we? And you go, no, that's the opposite to what we agreed. It's because you caught a bit of the conversation, but not the most important bit, and that's very common. So in a business setting, you come in with a sense of purpose. This is what we're going to talk about. Are we done? It took 15 minutes. We don't have to sit here for another hour. We walk out. You don't have to. You're not compelled to stay there simply because you agreed to in the beginning. Move on.
Fantastic. All right, something that we should all really be looking at applying in the workplace. I really appreciate the time from both of you. Gillian, Murray, thank you so much.
Thank you, Leanne.